So that work was meant to start several weeks ago, and they are sort of doing work, but they're not really doing major works there yet. As the effort of local people and local councillors, especially in the central area of Swindon, has that affected the work that's going to go on? As you said, the feedback from people saying that there's been no real big consultation on this, has that affected what will happen there?
Yes, to some extent. I mean, it was after the event that and pressure put by local councillors like myself, who represents the central ward, and where we had a public meeting, and in strong terms, local communities expressed the impact it would have on the environment that they live in. The result is that we put some alternative proposals up, and they're now being looked at and worked through. But I think it has to be looked at the impact. You know, what's brought this scheme about? It was originally supported by the new regeneration company. It was public sector money that's made this happen. Some of the private sector money is now coming in for the infrastructure on it. And it can't be forgotten this is just a private enterprise. There's a lot of public money involved in it, including many millions of pounds that the council are putting into this particular project. But we're not having a local say. You know, as local councillors, as communities, it's done away from this environment, and that's why I'm critical about it.
You were talking about housing development, etc. How do you stand on code?
How do we stand on code? Very simply, right? The position is that we would only support a development that brought in a university to Swindon previously, and that was going to be done adjacent to the Great Western Hospital. And that was the previous position. The Conservative administration failed to deliver a university for Swindon. The consequent, and to be more direct to your question, is we would want an apron on it that completely protects the Coatwater development. So it's contained to some extent, and it doesn't spill over into one of the jewels in the crowns of Swindon, and the open spaces that we have. So that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, but realistically, Derek, how do you do that? Because due to fair means or foul, planning permission has actually been granted that area can be built on now. How do you reverse that? Because we've got the need for housing. There's a developer who's coming along going to provide housing, and because of the way that it's been viewed, it has already been approved as an area where buildings can take place.
I think part of the planning regulations, we can insist on developers putting a greater contribution, having a larger apron around the area, and only in this way that we would go along with our development. And I think that's the line we've got to take, a fairly rigid line on it to protect the area.
But isn't it a done deal now? There's nothing we can do about it, is there? It's going to happen.
If it's a done deal, it's been done behind closed doors and I'm not aware of.
Well, as I say, done deal because of the planning permission for buildings.
No, I think there's an opportunity to widen that apron area that's there to protect it and set it up as a trust.
So that comes back to almost what you were saying about town centre work, which is that the council can, or at least politicians locally, should be more on top of and involved in what that plan is before it is even submitted. So there's more consultation between people. So you can say we want this as an open area, we want this space left here. So it's more about...
I think what we want is not the type of NIMBYism that sometimes arises, and NIMBYism is important as well, right? And so from protecting one's position. I think what we're talking about is making this town what we want to. And there's an opportunity to develop it. We are a growth area and we will grow. And there's an opportunity in this development and other areas where we need to engage with everybody concerned rather than this situation done with the business community behind closed doors.
So let's take the fact that you are looking to promote more housing. Where would you put them?
I'll tell you what we'll do. And I'll make you a promise, right, that in the first 5 days of us moving in, we'll be calling our officers and instructing them that we will want a minimum of 100 social housing being built in Swindon. Now,
where?
Well, that's yet to be determined. We've got a lot of land. We feel that as a Labour Party, we will make it one of our priorities and we'll have resources to be able to develop it. We'll go even further. I will go further by stating that we will work with the private sector for first-time buyers to try and have a scheme the same way when I was the chair of Housing and Health, where you built 1,000 houses for first-time buyers at a lesser cost than they would at the open marketplace, which was a few thousand lower than comparable houses in there. And it's those type of partnership schemes that will meet the housing needs. Currently, the housing waiting list is increasing. It is up at 1,300, 1,300 people waiting for housing. It's not acceptable. It's a very basic right, and it's something we will address in the first days of taking control of council.
And once you do build these houses and you do house these people, where are they going to work?
That's important. I think central to everything is to having the right employment policies, discussing with future employers. I come back to the point. We were the fastest growing town in Western Europe. But to be able to do it, what we have to have is the proper provisions of services for it. People have got to be proud. I don't think when you mention Swindon at the moment, to some extent, people do laugh, right, as being a dynamic town in the delivering of services and other things. We want to put that pride back in there, where a number of major employers want to relocate their services within the Swindon area.
Okay, we're going to take a short break there. We'll be back straight after this from the Walker Brothers. Talking to Derique Montaut, he's the leader of the Labour Party here in Swindon. Yes, it's my phone going off, and it's too far away to get to it at the moment. But we're talking about some of the monies which have been spent, and I'm somewhat concerned on how the Labour Party, as an opposition, are being effective within Swindon. How are you doing that?
How are we being effective? We scrutinise under difficult terms, because it's a very secretive administration. They're not as transparent as that. And the consequence is it's very difficult. But what we are doing is we are being the voice for local communities who haven't got a voice and making their case within the chamber on it.
Yeah, but Derique, if I read the results from scrutiny, I see that the work that was done on Wi-Fi was absolutely wonderful and the correct thing to do. I think that was scrutiny's decision last August, wasn't it?
Wi-Fi.
Do you agree with that?
I'm not quite certain what I agree and disagree on that. What I am concerned about is that Wi-Fi was a Labour government initiative to make it available for all sections of the community, and it was the right way to go. What I didn't agree with is to risking public sector money, right, and a business plan that wasn't shared with the opposition parties. And it was done in such a secretive way where two members took the decision, and the controversy that it's brought about is brought it in disrepute, and the business plan where about two people have signed up to it, it makes no sense, and it's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, but we were talking about scrutiny. Now, I don't know how many times it's been through, because this gets really confusing depending on who you talk to. It's either been through scrutiny 3 times, or it's been through scrutiny up to 6 or 7 times. But on each occasion, it passes scrutiny, doesn't it?
I think on the question of scrutiny, there's a series of questions. I think they run into the hundreds that's been sent into scrutiny on it. It's passed in scrutiny in terms that the delegated authority that the council had allowed them to make the investment into Wi-Fi. Rather than me stand judgment on this issue, I'd like the public to determine whether it was right that public money could be determined in this way, and whether regeneration money, and that's where they had the pocket of money which they didn't have to tell anybody. They took that out, and nearly £500,000 was put, £450,000 was put into Wi-Fi, which resulted in the scheme totally failing in its business plan to deliver.